For over 30 years, we have been helping millions of people have a great day at work. Now, more than ever, we are here to support a more sustainable and happier way to work in the future. People want and need access to professional workspace close to where they live, so they can stay safe and be productive. Welcome to a new way of working right on your doorstep. Our workspace is available instantly and ready to use, so you can plug in and get straight to work. We can help you create a safe environment for your team with a selection of office layouts adapted to provide more space whilst physical distancing measures continue to be in place. Our professional distancing rules are enforced across all our 3,500 locations, with clear signage to ensure safe movement throughout our workspaces. We have also reconfigured our meeting rooms to enable social interactions at a safe distance. And we are working to the highest standards of hygiene, with frequent touchpoint and workspace cleaning to meet global health and safety regulations. Our support teams are on hand 24/7 to help with any questions and concerns. And our in-centre teams are working harder than ever to keep people safe and working productively. We can help you find short-term space whilst the future is still uncertain, or enable long-term remote working setups on a global scale. Speak to us today. Together, we can create a more sustainable and happier way to work and help build a brighter future. Welcome to your new way of working right on your doorstep. We've created a safe environment for you and your team, with clear information and protocols in place to ensure everyone's safety. We have also reconfigured our meeting rooms, and we're working to the highest standards of hygiene, with frequent touchpoint and workspace cleaning to meet global health and safety regulations. Speak to us today and find a new way of working in our new world.
The world is changing. Digitalization and new technologies are transforming how we do business. People want the benefits of working anywhere, at any time, without limits. Businesses are becoming more agile, competitive, connected. The demand for flexible workspace is rapidly increasing. We're reaching a tipping point. The world is ready for the workspace revolution. We're not only ready for this change, we're leading it. We are IWG. We help over 2.5 million people to be more productive and work more effectively. We do so by providing inspiring workspaces, creating collaborative communities, and delivering world-class services. Our customers are startups, small and medium-sized enterprises, and large multinationals with unique business goals, people, and aspirations. They want the right space for them. They want choice. Through our companies, we provide that choice. Regus, Spaces, Number 18, Basepoint, Open Office, Signature. The workspace revolution is coming. Let's change the world together.
People really came to know Damosa as the Damosa district. And that really paved the way for Damosa to become a real estate company. We continue to be the first in many things. It's that first mover advantage, and I think that also comes with being the homegrown company.
An innovator is fearless. Innovation can only be derived at if one is not afraid to take risks in developing something that will change the course of its game and expand its horizon.
An innovator is a pioneer, someone who takes the leap to break grounds for new development, someone who is able to move ahead of its contemporaries to cultivate something that will become a way of life for the community.
An innovator is a game changer. Building up on its legacy, it constantly evolves to create developments that define its present and sets the path for its future.
An innovator is a trailblazer. Trailblazers make their own path and don't buy into what has always worked in the past. They find a gap and fill it.
An innovator is a trendsetter. It seeks to create a lifestyle to cater to the needs of the discerning community.
An innovator is an icon. Established as an institution, an icon is a character that everyone looks up to.
An innovator is unique. Unique when it comes to creating pleasurable experience to cater to the needs of the people.
We want to continue to grow the business along all of those different business lines. And to be honest, I think we really have that potential to become the best developer here in Mindanao. We're the only one that's really advancing in all of the different kinds of business lines that we're involved in. I wouldn't say that we're the biggest developer, but I like to think that we're one of those developers that likes to take risks and to really get ourselves involved in areas where nobody wants to take that first step. And so I think that's really what makes Damosa Land really one of the best innovative companies in Mindanao.
For over 30 years, we have been helping millions of people have a great day at work. Now, more than ever, we are here to support a more sustainable and happier way to work in the future. People want and need access to professional workspace close to where they live, so they can stay safe and be productive. Welcome to a new way of working, right on your doorstep. Our workspace is available instantly and ready to use, so you can plug in and get straight to work. We can help you create a safe environment for your team, with a selection of office layouts adapted to provide more space whilst physical distancing measures continue to be in place. Our professional distancing rules are enforced across all our 3,500 locations, with clear signage to ensure safe movement throughout our workspaces. We have also reconfigured our meeting rooms to enable social interactions at a safe distance. And we are working to the highest standards of hygiene, with frequent touchpoint and workspace cleaning to meet global health and safety regulations. Our support teams are on hand 20.
and welcome to Gear Up, Damosa Land and IWG, ready for Office Space Rebound. Please be guided that this program will start in a few minutes. For our on-site guests, please be guided with the seat assignments indicated per chair. Our venue is sanitized for your safety and feel free to use the alcohol provided in each tables. In case you have clarifications or questions for our speakers, you may write them on the papers we have provided. These shall be collected prior to the Q&A portion. We also welcome our online viewers. In case you have questions or clarifications for our speakers, feel free to comment in our Facebook Live video or send us a message to those who are logged in at Zoom. Please like and share our Facebook Live video and use the following hashtags. Hashtag Flexible Workspace, hashtag Regus, hashtag Mindanao. This hybrid event has followed the guidelines and standards set by COVID-19 Interagency Task Force for Management and Emerging Infectious Diseases Resolutions, or IATF. It has received the Davao City Special Mayor's permit for the conduction of investment. Thank you.
would like to welcome you all to this hybrid event entitled Gear Up Damosa Land and IWG, Ready for Office Space Rebound. I am Alexis K. Tigbao, and I will be your host for today. The Philippines is gradually recovering from the huge slump 1 year after the pandemic struck the whole world. The office space industry is seeing brighter prospects as demand is picking up, thanks to IT BPM and e-commerce industries. Additionally, many corporate offices are also expanding to large office spaces in compliance to IATF policies on workspace. And while we experienced the work from home setup, we realized that this could not sustain due to the increasing demand of faster connection and other technology-driven requirements. So as we are halfway through 2021, how are we seeing the future of work? To talk more about these and share their experience and milestones in the office industry here in Davao, I am pleased to introduce to you our speakers for today. First off, we have Mr. Lars Wittig, the Country Manager of International Workplace Group, IWG for Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and South Korea. He is also the Sales Vice President of ASEAN, Taiwan, and South Korea. We also have with us Mr. Ricardo Lagdameo, the President of Damosa Land Incorporated, the real estate and property development arm of Anflo Group of Companies and the exclusive franchise partner of IWG in Mindanao. We are also delighted to greet our guests here on site at Regus Ready Centrale Davao, and also to our participants joining through our online platform via Zoom and Facebook Live. Our guests are from various organizations as well as the members of the media. To get the most out of this event, we would like to encourage our guests to send in their questions during and after the event. For our on-site guests, please feel free to write down your question in the papers provided. For those who are joining through the Zoom platform, kindly key in your questions in the chat box in Zoom. And for those participating via Facebook Live, please comment down your questions in the comment section. All questions will be addressed later in the Q&A portion part of our program. So, to begin with, in the wake of the lockdowns around the world during 2020, suburban office space has been winning out. These trends are being driven by the growing demand of distributed working and working closer to home. To talk more about this, let me hand you over to Mr. Lars Wittig, who will speak more about why the flex space market is booming in the suburbs.
Thank you very much, Kate, and welcome to everybody online as well as here with us today. We are here in Davao, allowed to have up to 25 people in the same room, and the room is big, so we're all good and safe. Yes, I'm here representing IWG. IWG is a company that is more than 30 years old. We have been in the Philippines for over 20 years. Coincidentally, we opened our first center here in the midst of the Asian crisis. And it is almost exactly 5 years ago that we, together with Damosa Land and Carrie, opened the first location in Davao. IWG, probably better known as Regus or Spaces or HQ. So we are not only the largest provider in the world of flexible workspace, with the most members, the most cities, the most locations, but we are also the only one that has multiple brands. Expecting to come out on the other side of this crisis, this healthcare crisis, which clearly also has turned into an economical crisis, a challenge for everybody. Every single industry in Davao, in the nation, globally, have hit a wall, the COVID-19 pandemic. And the impact has been interesting. It has basically, in our case, caused the biggest flexible workspace experiment ever, because everybody have been forced to work from home. And these learnings have really moved the future much closer to us. I spent the last 10 years with IWG talking a lot about the future of work. I never expected it to come so soon to us. There's a new buzzword for this. It's hybrid working. Hybrid working, that means also that the big winners here, that is the provinces, is very much Davao. And therefore, it is very interesting today to be sitting here together with Korea Lagdameo from Damosa Land and talk about seated here with their newest center being launched, as well as a whole new brand, HQ, that we are bringing into Davao, and much more to come. But I think, Carrie, you should probably tell more about that.
So thanks, Lars, and good afternoon, or sorry, good morning to everyone out there. I know most of you are joining us via online, our online platforms, but thank you also to our guests that came here to join us this morning. As many of you may know, Damosa Land, we've been in several kinds of real estate verticals over the last few years. So from residential development, we have commercial buildings, we have industrial parks, we have hotels, and we have offices. But the office sector has actually been, it was one of our first projects as a real estate company, and the office leasing business continues to be one of our most important assets in our portfolio. So when we had the chance to work with IWG, that was way back in 2016, and we had the opportunity to set up the first, what would become actually the first and the largest premium flexible workspace in the city. We were so happy with the progress that after only about a year or a year and a half, we started reaching 90% occupancy, and it remained that way until right before the pandemic. So, you know, it was that early success that really prompted us with Mr. Lars Wittig and I to expand our business. And for us now, we have officially become the franchise partner of IWG here in Mindanao. So we signed that agreement in January of 2020. And so the center that we're seated in today, we're here at the Felcris Centrale building, which is another iconic building in the southern part of Davao. This is officially our first franchise center. So we do have plans to build a few more of these over the next few years. And essentially, I think what we're really doing is we're preparing ourselves for the recovery, which hopefully, you know, will be sooner rather than later. And you know, we told ourselves that recovery will eventually happen. So it's not really if, it's when. And we believe that, as Lars was talking about, the future of office spaces is really going to be hybrid working. So we do still have our permanent offices, but we do also believe that flexible workspaces will start to make up a bigger percentage of our total office portfolio. So, I mean, we look forward to what lies ahead. I think, you know, for the situation today in Davao, and that's the reason also why we're seated here in an office with a capacity of 25 people. It's also because the situation as it is today it's relatively better than other parts of the country. And you know, we've been able to work a little bit more. We've been able to move around a little bit more. I think some businesses are, of course, still struggling, but others are starting to recover. And let's not forget that prior to the pandemic, the Davao region was, if not the fastest, one of the fastest growing regions in the country. So we do believe that the Davao region has the ability to bounce back a little bit quicker because the region was very strong economically even before the pandemic. So we look forward to that, of course, and we're ready with our office spaces, whether it's our flexible workspaces or our permanent workspace. So with that, again, thank you to all for joining, and I look forward to answering your questions later on.
Thank you, Lars and Carrie, for sharing those insights with us. Now, we would like to ask Mr. Carrie Lagdameo, what are the milestones that you have experiences when you opened the center here in Davao? So what are the challenges and milestones that we had?
Well, I would say I guess the first milestone was our first opening in 2016. That was clearly a major milestone. The next, I would say, is when we started to hit about 80% occupancy, because that was really the initial number, at least, that we were trying to get at. And we hit that number, I think, 1 year before our target date. So we were expecting for it to happen in about 2 years, and it happened in about 1 year. But I think more importantly, what was very interesting about that first center was that when we opened it, we noticed that about 80% of our tenants were not from Davao City. So it really helped as a way for new investors and companies to come in very quickly and very efficiently.
Thank you for answering that, Mr. Carrie. And thank you, Carrie and Lars, again for sharing your insights. Now, before proceeding to the Q&A portion, we would like to hear more of your experiences as our speakers in coming down here in Davao. So, Lars and Carrie, can you share with us your experiences of coming down here in Davao with all policies put into place?
Well, I arrived Sunday. First of all, I was just so excited to just be able to make the trip here. I've been frequenting Davao for more than 25 years, nearly 30 years. But this was the first time after the pandemic hit us. And I was so surprised how smooth it all went. You need to be a little bit well prepared in terms of the QR code and registration with Davao City, the PCR testing, and then the tracing app. If you have those three things, and obviously an airfare ticket, then it is smooth flying for sure. But that was my only or so far first time in the middle of the pandemic, Carrie. You've done it much more often than I have.
Yeah, so I started making the trip down here again last October. So this is, I believe, my 5th trip. And well, one thing I do appreciate is that, it's the rules are in place. It's a little bit strict, but it's also led to lower COVID cases. So I do appreciate that. And one thing I noticed that from my first trip back in October to now, you see a difference. You see the city a bit buzzing a little bit more. I mean, we're still not out of the woods yet. A lot of businesses are still struggling, but there are those that are starting to pick up. I mean, for instance, over the last year, there have been major real estate projects that have been completed. A major hospital was just opened. Some of the hotels that closed early on in the pandemic have reopened already. So I mean, those are good signs. Those are positive signs. And yes. I would like to think that we're moving in the right direction. Again, we're definitely not out of the woods yet, but at least we're starting to see some signs of or positive signs of recovery.
And if I may add, relative to what we see nationwide, yes, the provinces are definitely going to take a giant share of business moving forward. But the fact that you mentioned that it is now so much easier to fly down here and the hotels are reopening, that's a very good sign for Davao. We have seen, from Metro Manila perspective, we have seen a lot of business already moving to Clark, because you didn't have to fly to Clark from Manila. Now that it has become increasingly easy to fly again, we're going to see a big shift towards the provinces and not least Davao City.
Yeah, so I think we're starting to see that a little bit already. Some people are starting to be comfortable flying into the city. Even some of the resorts and hotels are starting to have higher occupancy. So I suppose with vaccinations starting to pick up and other signs of other positive signs such as that, then yeah, we should expect more business in the coming months.
Okay, thank you for that, Lars and Lars and Carrie. Now, Can you tell us more about the entry of flexible workspace in Davao and how it has evolved through the years?
You want to take that one, Lars?
Well, yeah, I can. You know the details probably much better than I do, but I can tell you, Kerry mentioned earlier that he saw 80% of the customers in the early days being companies that came to Davao and using our Regus platform as like the landing platform to get into the market and test the market and get established, etc. To be honest, I had expected closer to 100% of the business to be businesses that came directly from abroad or at least from Metro Manila and then expanding down here. The fact that 20% was local business was interesting. We pioneered this business, Carrie, in Davao. We had to educate the market about flexible workspace. And the fact that 20% were local companies, it was also very small, medium enterprises, even startups. Why? Because they saw Regus, IWG, as a launching platform. So when they had an address with us, maybe a small office too, in Davao, with that, they already had a national presence because they can avail of our other nearly 30 locations in Cebu and Clark and throughout Metro Manila, and actually even regionally and globally.
Yeah, and you know, to add to that, Lars, in the early days when we were bringing people around the first center, one of the common comments that we used to receive from some of the local businesses was that might this be a little bit too expensive? Are people really going to pay for it? But you know, slowly when people started to see the value in working inside of a Regus. So for instance, we used to have professionals, like say a single real estate broker with one assistant. And rather than working from, you know, a coffee shop all the time or working from a restaurant, at least now they had a physical space that they could just come into right away, you know, flip the switch, they can just start working. They don't have to build anything. Mm-hmm. The internet is included, the coffee was included, and they loved all those things. So they didn't mind actually paying for, you know, for all of these services. And so that was, as you said, it was good to see that there was adoption from the local business community, because that was very important for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Lars Wittig and Carrie Lagdameo. Thank you for generously sharing your experiences. Before we jump off to the Q&A portion, here are some helpful videos to show you more about Regus.
The world is changing. Digitalization and new technologies are transforming how we do business. People want the benefits of working anywhere, at any time, without limits. Businesses are becoming more agile, competitive, connected. The demand for flexible workspace is rapidly increasing. We're reaching a tipping point. The world is ready for the workspace revolution. We're not only ready for this change, we're leading it. We are IWG. We help over 2.5 million people to be more productive and work more effectively. We do so by providing inspiring workspaces, creating collaborative communities, and delivering world-class services. Our customers are startups, small and medium-sized enterprises, and large multinationals with unique business goals, people, and aspirations. They want the right space for them. They want choice. Through our companies, we provide that choice. Regus, Spaces, Number 18, Basepoint, Open Office, Signature. The workspace revolution is coming. Let's change the world together.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. This time, we are open to our Q&A portion of the program. So while waiting, we have received several and very interesting questions from our guests. So I'll be reading the questions and I'll address the question to either Lars or Mr. Carey, or you can answer both. Yeah, whichever applies. So let's start with the first question. So this is from Greg of Malaya Business Insight. Pandemic situation expected to extend until we achieve herd immunity, which under the current dispensation may take a while. How will co-working spaces evolve? What motivations drive co-working spaces now?
Yeah, if I may give an answer to that one. And no doubt that the working from home exercise has proven enormous benefits, but also challenges. Challenges typically internet speed, data security, that we are being disturbed, we are competing for internet and room and quietness with our children being schooled from home, etc. All familiar stuff. Therefore, the alternative is really to sort of hybrid working. It's not working from home per se. It can be also working from home, but otherwise jump into a business lounge near where you live. That is also very much hybrid working, that kind of flexibility. And what we see now is that there's a big shift towards hybrid working, obviously, but there's literally, first of all, there's not a single company on planet Earth that will have the same workspace requirements post-pandemic as pre-pandemic. Secondly, we know statistically 81% of all companies today are planning on maintaining and expanding on hybrid working, meaning that at least for a portion of their employees, they will still ask for them to work from home or hybrid working, office hubs in the suburbs, etc., instead of always reporting to the head office as they used to do. So what we see is a very big re-engineering right now. You might even wonder, how come that Carrie and I are sitting here today to talk about all new developments, Carrie's very first franchised office center in the middle of a crisis. Why? Because due diligence, rethink your business, re-engineer your business, reinvent yourself. Those who do that will get a giant share coming out on the other side. And what we see with customers right now is that they are preparing for the other side. And the hybrid working model is actually also what is helping them, not only through the crisis right now, through the pandemic and the lockdowns, but it is also what they want to avail of on the other side of the pandemic. Yep.
Okay, that's it. So just one word for IWG, it's flexible. Okay, really flexible. So now we will proceed with our second question. This is addressed to Mr. Ricardo Lagdameo. When do you expect a full return to office in Davao? What industries do you think will expand their office space, take up in the new normal? Thank you very much. So what industries will later on expand?
Yeah. Well, first of all, as to when it will happen, I mean, I wish we all had a crystal ball. Almost impossible to make that prediction, right? But what we're seeing, and this is from our own experience. I mean, we've been getting inquiries from BPOs and different kinds of BPOs. So whether it's a call center or in healthcare services. So I think, that was one of the major predictions that was being made by all of the real estate consultancy companies, and that BPOs would be looking to expand and looking to expand outside of Metro Manila. So we're slowly starting to see that. Obviously now it's still a bit difficult because travel is still, it's a little bit difficult to do. But the fact that the inquiries are coming in, they're meaning to say that they're already preparing for, as Lars put it, coming out on the other side. So the preparations are being done now. And once I think travel is a little bit looser and cases are lower, then those executives who need to actually visit the physical spaces will be coming down.
If I may also add to that, Carrie, I mean, you and I, we looked at the pipeline who are inquiring right now. And we can even talk about for the whole Philippines. We are still getting almost exactly 1,000 new inquiries every single month for the Philippines. So looking at those inquiries is almost like looking at a crystal ball and see what will happen in the Philippines business-wise in the next 3 months to 3 years or longer. And what we found specifically for Davao is that it is, as you mentioned, the BPOs, but also Japanese firms, companies, Japanese investors for infrastructure, etc. And why are the Japanese interesting specifically for Davao, specifically for the Philippines? Well, looking back at 2020, foreign direct investments dropped with 25%. That actually was proved to be quite resilient compared to other countries out here. But what was specifically interesting was the Japanese investments, for example, increased with over 80% in 2020 over the year before. What an amazing increase. And why is that particularly interesting today sitting in Davao? Because historically, for many, many years, close to 100 years actually, the Japanese have had a great presence and preference for Davao City. This is like ground zero for Japanese investors. So very promising indicators, I think, specifically for Davao.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned about the Japanese locators. And first of all, thank you to the members of the Japanese Chamber who I know are listening or attending this event this morning. But actually, one of our locators in our industrial park, the Japanese company, our first Japanese company to actually locate there, they will be starting their operations by about July of this year.
Yep.
So as you said, I mean, there is that the Japanese have a strong affinity to Davao, and we would love to see more of those kinds of investments coming here. Hopefully also patronizing our regional centers as well. So yeah, hopefully in the coming months.
Okay, those were really good insights from both Carrie and Lars. Now we will head to our third question. This is from Raymond Tribdino of TechSauce PH. So he asked, prior to the pandemic, co-working spaces were the fastest growing form of real estate. This growth stagnated and dropped. But your forecasts for co-working spaces in the PH now appear very optimistic. What factors push this optimism aside from economic factors?
Okay. The share of flexible workspace, one way or the other, was already predicted to become very significant. It was predicted from Jones Lang LaSalle to PricewaterhouseCoopers and many other reliable sources to grow from about 2 to 5% of all commercial office space to become about 1/3 of all commercial office space that would become flexible one way or the other. That, by the way, by year 2030. Now that is moving up. It's going to happen much sooner. We see it even with the biggest Fortune 500 companies that typically would have a head office set up in Metro Manila in a typical CBD area. They might have, say, 10 floors. When they're going to renew their leases, bad news for traditional conventional office space, they might cut it to maybe only 1/3 or 0. Not because they're going to have fewer employees, but because now they have learned, and this will become, as our founding CEO, Mark Dixon says, this will become one of the legacies from this pandemic. That will be the hybrid working. They will embrace this. They will appreciate the fact it becomes a flexible, short-term, cost to have workspace. It will be agile, adaptable to the needs here and now, overall for the company in terms of workspace capacity, but also very much for the individual employee who will be able to drop in and work from whenever and wherever, provided there's a big network to avail of, such as IWGs. So these are absolutely driving factors. Also, remember from an HR point of view, whole new job applicants have been able to get access to the best jobs anywhere almost in the world. You can today apply for an excellent job in, say, Metro Manila with a Fortune 500 company while you are living and being based here in Davao City without ever having to move. That is interesting for the HR manager in BGC or Makati or Ortigas, and it is definitely interesting for all the local talents down here. So combined with the digital platforms, this is just going to get so exciting, and clearly, flexible workspace is not just growing as much as already predicted pre-pandemic. It's going to grow much faster. Actually, that future that was predicted for 2030, give and take, it's already here.
And Lars, are you starting to see this already? Because I mean, you have centers all over the world.
Yes.
So I mean, are you seeing it like in the UK and the US? I mean, countries that are already recovering.
Absolutely, and I have some examples from like the smallest firms to the absolute biggest. What has happened so far this year is that we have added about 500,000 users, members, who are relying on a daily basis on workspace with IWG. For example, Standard Chartered Bank, they wanted to ask people to work from home. They could more or less only ask them to stay at home during the lockdown. Why? It's a bank. You need a firewall. It's very confidential. So of course, they like to come to us. Standard Chartered Bank, they acquired, I believe in February, 95,000 memberships with IWG. So they have 95,000 named employees who can drop into any of our locations. It could be here in Davao, it could be in Phuket or Bali, or it could be in the financial district of New York or anywhere close to where they live. That is very telling. Another even bigger membership joiner, NTT, known by many of us as a telecom company in Japan, today is so much more, a huge investor. In Japan, as an investor, I think they are the competitor with SoftBank, the biggest competitor. They bought 300,000 memberships, and this is not just to help them through COVID-19. No, this is their due diligence. This is them re-engineering their businesses for the future, for what I like to call when we come out on the other side.
That's it. So thank you, Lars, for sharing. Indeed, there's always a good opportunity from the bad, right? Okay, to continue, we will be having the question from Mr. Enzo Luna of Metropolar. He asked, with virtual remote work or work from home becoming more popular and preferred by some companies, how does this new working space becomes an advantage for working environment experience?
Again, our research shows, and I think we all hear this from friends, neighbors, colleagues, etc. People either get lonely working from home or they get disturbed working from home. It is not that working from home doesn't work. It does, but we need more than that. People also tend to miss the social element and they miss their colleagues. So you need, and that is what we see too, that big companies, they get these office hubs so that people, their employees can drop in and go into a dedicated office for their company, close the door and meet up with the stakeholders, and otherwise rely on the entire network to drop in and be able to work from a business lounge. So working from home, if you really be careful with that term, I mean, it's also like when you ask when we asked people, and did so with our research before the pandemic, if you were able to work from home, would you like to do so? People had a tendency to ask yes, but what they really meant, if we asked more into it, was near home. And now that they have actually tried to work from home, they definitely mean near home, because they're not necessarily so happy sitting every single day working from home. And I think we all recognize that.
All right, that's it. Would you like to add some info, Sir Carrie?
Yeah, I think, I mean, just my personal thought on that, and my personal insight was that we have to listen to our employees more so than the company dictating what your work style is going to be. And that's because we have to really look after the well-being of our staff. And I think if we were to tell them to stay home and work from home, we probably wouldn't be keeping them for a very long time. They're going to get burnt out. They'll have mental health issues. And so even in our company, the preference has really been to have some kind of hybrid work. And our sometimes our employees go to the office. A lot of times they go to the project sites. And now with this new Regus, which is actually at the opposite end of town, way at the opposite end compared to our first our main office, we plan to actually use some of the space here for our employees, especially the ones that live in this part of town. So now they have so many options to actually work, different locations to work, and to work safely. And rather than just staying home where internet is poor, they're sharing rooms with their with their children or with their siblings. That's it takes a toll also on the quality of your work. What I noticed from our employees, when they were able to go around a lot more, especially to, like, say, the project sites and just to be out of the office, the productivity did increase.
So that's good to know. All employees becomes productive when they enjoy a lot life and work balance. Okay, good. For the next question, it's from May Dedicatoria from the Philippine Star. She asked, in the future, would you have niche office spaces like co-working spaces for parents with kids, or for certain disciplines like musicians?
Well, we are going to see, we are already seeing a lot of mixed concepts. We're also seeing co-living combined with co-working. These micro experiments are very interesting. We don't have anything that I can announce today that is going to be launched under yet another brand, but I'm very confident that our founding CEO, Mark Dixon, has his mind around this, and if we are going to move forward to enter any of those solutions in our offerings also, he will have all the right reasons to do so if it is viable and if it complements. It's all interesting thinking, and I love it, because it's all about thinking outside the box. I mean, as you said before, Kate, there's nothing like a bad crisis. I think Winston Churchill said, "Don't waste a good crisis." I also saw a title of a book the other day. It was like, remember, what got you here won't get you there. We are at such a pivotal point right now that we should not exclude any options.
Agree with you, Lars. So thank you for the info. Now let's move on to the next question from Vo Alvior of the Philippine Daily Inquirer. She asked, DLI and IWG are looking to increase office offerings beyond Davao. Where else in Mindanao are you looking to locate? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, early on, we identified the key cities that we felt would be ready for flexible workspace. And I think aside from Davao, we identified Cagayan de Oro and General Santos. So those were the three initial cities. But who knows? I mean, 5 to 10 years down the road, I mean, other cities might be ready for this as well.
Okay, thank you, Sir Carrie. Apologies earlier, it was Von Alviar. Okay, so for the next question, we have here from Mr. or Miss Riz Reyes of Business Mirror. First, what is the roadmap as far as attracting startups and SMEs are connected to tap their facilities? Thank you.
You want to take that?
Sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
Okay. So for the question, he said, what is the roadmap as far as attracting startups and SMEs are concerned to tap their facilities? Thank you.
Yeah, you know that the startup market it has been growing quite a lot over the last couple of years. You know, the startup scene it's very different today than where it was 10 years ago, and you know we expect that these startup companies, I think they're not also going to want to just be working from their own home. They're going to want to work in a place such as a Regus where there's a community, there are facilities, it can stoke creativity. And so we do believe that once restrictions are not as tight, that we'll start to see some of these SMEs go back to centers such as this. Because even prior to the pandemic, we did have a number of startups and SMEs that were already patronizing these centers, and that was just right before the pandemic. So I can only imagine that they will continue to come back right after.
And this type of solutions, flexible office space as a service, from day one, basically, I mean, for as long as we've been in business, IWG, more than 30 years, the small, medium enterprises, the startup companies, they used to be our absolute core business because they have limited resources in all respects. So they don't want to put all their money into a long-term lease where they have to make an investment into office space. Actually, they don't even want to become specialists in managing an office space. They're busy being out there chasing their first customers, etc. And we have many great examples of that, by the way, also here in the Philippines. But what did tend to happen, go back only 10 years, was after a lot of success, because we certainly help them look better to their customers. We amplify the way they look to their customers. They can grow with us, etc. And then eventually when they feel that, okay, now things are more predictable, then 10 years ago, they would go to conventional office space, at least some of them. Now we see the exact opposite. The speed of change, even pre-COVID, extremely fast. If you're a Fortune 500 company, statistically, you will only remain so for maximum 10 years. Why? Because either A, as a company, you're not good enough at keeping up, or B, your entire industry is obsolete. So how can you lock yourself into 5-10 year long leases with capital investments? So now everybody, as always, the SMEs, the startups, etc., are with us, and the Fortune 500 companies and anything in between, they're really now relying on us. So interesting developments.
Thank you, Lars and Carrie. So this question is from our ICT community in Davao. So from Mr. Sam Matunog, the president of ICT Davao. So here it says, first, congratulations to Regus for your confidence in the business opportunities of Davao amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Davao serves as an anchor city of BIMP Iaga, a 50 million population market for Southern Mindanao companies. Is this market part of the radar of Regus and Damosa Land? If so, which products and services of your companies are oriented to serve that market?
Well, I think definitely these two Regus centers that we have, especially being in Davao City. So any company within the region are welcome to use our facilities. So definitely there's an opportunity to really serve the BIMP Iaga market. And if I may add, aside from our flexible workspace, I mean, we also have, since you asked about other products and services, I mean, we do have our industrial park where if there are, say, manufacturing companies or logistics companies, that's another project that we have where these companies from the region can locate their businesses. So, I mean, if you work with Damosa Land, we're actually quite flexible. We have a lot of options that we can offer you, and whether it's in the office space, permanent office space, flexible workspace, warehousing, industrial park. So we have quite a bit to offer.
Thank you, Sir Carrie. So we have a lot more exciting questions, but unfortunately, due to time constraints, we have to limit it down. But one more question from Mr. RJ Lumawag of Sunstar Davao. So he has 4 questions, but let's answer one. What does the shift of flexi office spaces tell about how businesses and investors expand in the coming years?
What does it tell? Well, it tells a lot, but whether it tells exactly on how they're going to expand, this is a workspace or work style revolution. So that is probably taking at least, the majority of the picture. In terms of how they're going to expand, then again, as the market leader, not only globally, but also in the Philippines, when I look in my crystal ball, and I do have that one, because I have the 1,000 inquiries per month, I can see who are the embassies that are likely to come to the Philippines and open their first embassy. I can see who are the investors that are going to be coming in the future to the Philippines. I can see whether there are big mergers and acquisitions that are going to take place even within the Philippines. Obviously, if you have 2 big companies within the Philippines and they're considering a merger, they're not going to meet at one or the other. Even a hotel is too public. It takes place at one or several of our locations. And again, think about it. Okay. The number of inquiries we get now, it's fewer than pre-COVID, but 1,000 incoming inquiries per month for this country, brand new inquiries. Nobody are forcing them or asking them to call IWG, and they do. And by the way, they are much more likely to sign up for office space today than they were pre-COVID. They've really thought about this. And when they contact us, which they obviously do in significant, incredible numbers, then they're much more likely than before to actually sign up for the flexible workspace solutions.
Okay, all good. Before we end the session, any thoughts on that, Sir Carrie?
No, I think honestly, Lars put it very well. I mean, for us, we're looking forward to how this office space industry will evolve, and I think we're ready for it because we have the centers here. We have 2 locations now. We still have our permanent workspace. So I think depending on what the companies need. And every company is going to have different needs. We'll have something for, I think, for everyone, all the way from SMEs to large corporates.
Okay, thank you so much. That was again Mr. Lars Wittig and Carrie Lagdameo. We'd also like to express our gratitude to everyone who have joined us this morning for our event, namely Apple One Properties Inc., Belsinor Pharmaceuticals Inc., Casa College, Colliers International Philippines, Davao City Investment Promotion Center, European Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, IWG, Japanese Chamber of Commerce of Philippines, JLL, KDDI Philippines, Malaga's Garden Resort, Metropolar, My Broker Realty Corp, Oro Asian Automotive Center, Prime Philippines, RDAK Transport Equipment Inc., Revoke Mente Innovation Management Services, RLB Philippines, SGV & Co., Sunland Building Solutions Inc., Trends and Concepts Total Interior Solutions Inc., and to the members of the media. We have Sunstar Davao, Mindanao Daily News, Manila Bulletin, Metropole, Manila Standard, Trend Hotspot, Page One Media, Philstar.com, The Edge Davao, The Mindanao Times, Mindanao Examiner, Business World, Texas PH, The Philippine Star, Daily Tribune, Manila Republic, Malaya Business Insight, Business Mirror, The Manila Times, and GMA News. So we hope you were able to take away a lot of insights about the future of work and how you can take advantage of this with your business. We are open for further inquiries, so please do not hesitate to contact the details flashing on your screen right now. Yes, so we will be pleased to address all inquiries. So again, this has been your host, Alexis K. Tigbao, and I hope you have a great day at work. Thank you.